Ireland against Tonga. We've seen the Ireland team. It'll come up here on the screen here shortly. He's gone pretty much full strength there. A couple, without maybe Gibson Park and Dan Shane. But look at that team, Alan. What do you make of it? Would you have gone so strong? But it's a real statement of intent.
I wasn't sure, and we both probably, both Matt and I and lots of other people have been debating this for 2 weeks. What way do you go in the first two games? I think he's made a real statement here as regards the gloves are off. There's no more mollycoddling. They're going for it. He's looking for his players to be battle hardened ahead of the South African-Scotland game. Is there risks with it? Yeah, obviously there is. There's always a risk. But I think these players need matches as well. And I think if you're going to win a World Cup, you need to be top of your game. You need to be sharp. You need to have games under your belt. And the vast majority of these players have probably 2 games under their belt. They've had a brilliant pre-season. They're going to be in peak condition. They need rugby, and so sometimes the argument is, protect cotton wool, all that kind of stuff. But we have it a lot in November when we go south, you're at a position in the end of your season where you are battle hardened and you've loads of rugby played and all that cohesion is at a high level. And that's what he's looking for here. So raised a few eyebrows. I thought it'd be kind of 50-50, but I can see what he's doing. And all these players need matches, and there's no point in sending them into South Africa next week thinking, well, Romania was great and we got a run out there. The intensity levels are going to go much higher. So getting a strong physical, big challenge against a very strong Tongan side, who all their players are playing at a very high level. Some of them are playing in Japan, a lot of them across Europe. Good few of them playing with Moana Pacifica as well in Super Rugby. So there's no slouches here. There's no kind of walkover here. And I think he was there firsthand in for that Japan game in the last World Cup, and he's taking no chances. And you know what? He's earned the right to kind of be backed for his decisions, and he just gives you the opinion that Andy Farrell, that look, he doesn't kind of overanalyze the kind of possible negative outcomes. He's looking for positive outcomes, and he's a very positive guy if you meet him. And of course, some coaches would have done things differently here and probably picked a different side. But he wants momentum, and he's given the Tonga the respect that they deserve, because this is a very, very dangerous game. In 2011, they beat France at the World Cup. They went really close in 2019. So that capability is in this Tongan side. And the unthinkable, you pick a half a side and there's a sizable difference between the starting 15 for Ireland and the next group in line. And that's not being disrespectful. The starting 15, we've 6-7 world-class players in there, and a number of others who you could argue, if there's a British and Irish Lions team picked now or even before the World Cup, there'd be 8-10 of these guys easily in the squad, and probably 7 or 8 of them with a real legitimate argument to start. Doesn't count for anything when you kind of if you don't perform at the World Cup, and that's the challenge for them. So I have no issue with that. If I was a player, I'd be chomping at the bit to go again. It's not like 2007 where Eddie, after the first game against Namibia, we won 34-17. The plan was to try and have everyone played, the 30 players' involvement in the first 2 games. Namibia was poor. There was something missing, a bit of spark. And then Georgia, right, they go again then with the same team, the perceived strongest team, and Georgia nearly beat us. So his back is against the wall then. What do you do for France a week after? You've got to kind of, all these guys have got to play again, and then similar stuff happened against Argentina. We're out of the group. There's always a risk of, like, there'll be Jack Conan, Dan Sheehan, Stuart McCluskey and Jimmy O'Brien are the 4 players who have not had an involvement yet. I think with Sheehan, Conan and Jimmy O'Brien, those 3, you could slot them straight in against South Africa. They're at that level. Stuart McCluskey, with respect to him, is not a guaranteed starter with Aki, Ringrose and Henshaw. So you'd love to be in a situation, I don't know what you think, Matt, after 2 rounds of World Cup and have all your players got game time. This confidence thing and everyone feels part of it. But I just think Andy Farrell has done a job in the last few years where he's given loads of people chances. He's a good team morale, and now it's time to just say, right, it's time to step it up a gear, and the sentiment is going out of this. And I think he's done that with the selection. So I think it's a strong side, really strong side. And I still think, I think when I thought about this more, they need more games. You know, sometimes, like, thought back to November 2022 when they play South Africa, and they haven't played since New Zealand, and of course we can step up and play these games, but I think they'll be in a better position next week. The risk is that someone get injured, and of course if we lose the game and we get an injury or two next week against South Africa going into it, and there's one or two players out, everyone will say, well, wrong thing to do. But for me it feels right.
But respect Tonga, respect the competition, but most importantly respect themselves, is what Andy Farrell said this week. Am I right in saying you have a slightly different view, though? You would have expected a few more changes?
Well, Stewie, I would really agree with Alan. Andy Farrell has done a phenomenal job with this team in the last 2 years, since November 21. Phenomenal. And I agree with Alan. He's earned our respect to make the selection he has made. So I'm not questioning Andy in that way. He's earned my respect too. You know, I deeply respect what he's done, how that team plays and how he's managed it. And I know those guys are telling the truth when they say they're very happy in that group. He deserves all that credit. The counter argument, and this isn't a criticism of Andy, it's an observation, because it's the beauty of sitting where we're sitting, Quinny, and not being the coach or the players. You know, it's only in hindsight we'll know if Andy's right. Now, if we look at if we come back a bit, so what's the purpose of Ireland at this World Cup? They can win this World Cup. I think we all agree there's no guarantees, but they can. So if we work back, final, semi-final, quarter-final, Scotland, South Africa, here we are, Tonga. So this team, the way that's picked, that's their best team, I agree, minus a couple of players moving in and out. And everything Alan has said is accurate. What he is saying is they have to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have to play a Six Nations +1 and win every game with 1 week off between South Africa and Scotland. That is a very, very big ask for one group of players, especially knowing that our front rowers will have to go deep. Our props, like as they've done, will have to go deep into every game in minutes. 65, 70 minutes. That's what they usually do.
But if I could jump in for 1 second, I think these guys will come off 50, 60 minutes, 45, 50 minutes tomorrow. That's the plan. And plus the week off.
Yeah.
And look, it is risky, and it's very relevant what you're saying. And everyone has an opinion on this, and I wouldn't be critical of anyone, because, you know, it'll be easy for people to say, well, this was right or that was wrong. And in hindsight, I think this has been based on how stressed they were last week as well. I think they would have looked at some of the data, the recovery time. Ireland had no sustained period last week of defending for a long period. And you know yourself as a coach, or as a player, you're hanging on, you're making tackles, you're getting back up. It really takes it out for you, as opposed to being on the front foot for the ball. Sometimes when you're on the front foot for the ball, you're actually getting fitter and sharper, and you're stepping. Defending is what really takes it out of you when you get the knock. So I think it's probably based on a little bit of the data last week.
For sure, Quinny.
And probably asking players, how did you feel? Yeah. And, you know, but I do, your point is relevant. Yeah. The thing here is, you know what, I just think he's actually saying, Matt, I'm not looking at a semi-final or a final, or even a quarter-final. I'm looking at topping this group and then seeing where we're at.
And Alan, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, mate. I'm not trying to just be...
We could be giving out. Wouldn't it be a great complaint if we were giving out that Ireland were beaten and got to a final and, oh God, look, they were unlucky, they were a bit tired, and then...
Yeah, that's my point.
I'd rather be doing that.
So if you work backwards against Romania, maybe that was the error. Well, should he have played his second team against Romania?
Possibly.
And then you bring this group in now. Because then when you put the Romanian game in, that was my last point, it's actually 7 games in a row. Now, if we look at the opposition, are France doing that? No. What happened last night? They didn't play well, for sure. Are the New Zealanders going to do it? No. Are the South Africans going to do it? No, they've picked a very different team and they've lost Malcolm Marx at training. So the opposition aren't doing what Andy's done. And this isn't a criticism, this is an observation. I was surprised at the selection, but I can see why he's done it, and I agree with you, Quinny. He's just saying, let's top the pool. But there needs to be strategy. To win a World Cup, you need some selection strategy. So if we go back, this is where you get old blokes on the show. I can remember a few things. My generation, like when Australia won the 91 World Cup, that was my generation of players. And so I knew those guys. And against Samoa, in a pool game, they didn't pick their best team. And they had Nick Farr-Jones on the field, who was our captain. Nick hurt his knee. And I think it was, someone in the records will correct me, it was a 2-point game. I think it was 13-12, 13-11, something like that. They just got home. It was in the rain at Pontypool. I'll never forget, everyone's going, oh my God, they're going to knock us out of the World Cup. Now, they didn't. And Australia went on to win that World Cup just by a whole lot of things. So there's history, and you go back to the other teams that win it. Somewhere they have wrested aside. So I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just giving you an observation of what could be wrong. Now, again, let's come back. Andy Farrell has got things right, very, very right, often over 2 years. Won games in New Zealand, all the things Andy's done. So he has earned our respect and us to support him on that, and I'm doing that. I'm just pointing out what a counter-argument could be. And you know when we'll know? If we're popping champagne corks on the 28th of October, we're going, great decision, mate. But I think, Quinny, what we spoke about, I think he's looking at the quarterfinals, because that's going to be it. If you can get if you can win that quarterfinal and topping your pool gets it, that's going to set it up. So maybe that's the strategy. I think it has risks, like you said, but I'm not going to argue against it because.
But my counterpoint to the kind of a Six Nations job, because they have 2 breaks in the Six Nations. Remember, they play 2, 1 week off, play 2, play 1, then another week off.
Yeah.
They've 3.
That's right.
Is it 2 breaks or 3 breaks?
No, two break,
breaks.
1,
play
2.
2, 1 break 2. Yeah.
There's the following week. Yeah.
I just think, honestly, even if they're going for 7 weeks, they can take the rest of their lives off.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? And
I know.
And like, sometimes I know we're talking about player welfare and all that, and yeah, again, I'm very open to being challenged on this. If you have a bang or a knock or a sore neck or a tweak in the calf or a sore ankle, yes, you're gone. You're not even in the question mark for this situation. But I think the thinking behind this is Romania didn't stress them at all. So they're nearly kind of, in some sense, we didn't, there was a lot of changes very quickly in the second half. So most of the players have only played 45, 50 minutes. And plus, it's all about this getting to a point where they're so comfortable and they're back at that level where they're just so cohesive, their movement, their shape, the fatigue has been shaken out, and that they're getting into shape quicker. Because the way Ireland, if they're going to be successful this World Cup, is that structure, that attack, that shape, that front runner being an option, that back runner being an option, that lateral pass being an option every time. And that's what we're talking about. And sometimes you have to just replicate that you can do it all you want in training. So, of course, it's a risk. And if if someone gets a bang or a knock and we're missing for South Africa next week and we lose that game because we're down a couple of bodies, yeah, it'll come up, definitely. But you know what? I think just go for it now. It's just get to a point where you're trying to win these games and see what happens. There's a number of things can happen here with the 16 to 23 or even 16 to 33. There's a number of players, I think, there that you can slot in there that can not be exactly like for like, but can be 90% like for like, if you know what I mean. They're not like we know the first 15. Gibson Park goes in for Conor Murray and Sheehan goes in for Keller. You're looking at a team there that is so balanced. Oh yeah, there's credible footballers in there.
No arguments.
And if 1 or 2 have to be plucked out of that, and you're down to 12 of those guys and 3 others coming in, I don't think the level drops significantly. If you put 6, 7, 8 in there, I think the level drops a bit. Still very good players and very good side. So I think that's what he's basing it on and being ready, respecting this one, because I genuinely think Tonga will cause Ireland problems
That's what I was
tomorrow
gonna say
night.
there.
No matter what team we've out, they're going to cause Ireland problems. They're going to have to be on the money. Defensively, they're going to have to work incredibly hard. They're not going to be running through like they were last week and Tongan guys jumping out of the line. They're going to have to work these guys, you know.
Well,